Joining me now, Democratic Congressman John Garamendi of California. He is a member of the Armed Services Committee and a frequent guest. Nice to see you again, sir. Thank you for joining me.
Good to be with you, Alex.
Your reaction to Rudy Giuliani wading into this very sensitive territory as it relates to North Korea, not once but twice now?
Well, Rudy Giuliani is a loose cannon rolling around the Oval Office with another loose cannon, namely the president. And chaos is developing. He really needs to stay out of the North Korea issue. It is very sensitive. It's extremely important. We hope and indeed are prayerful that the president will have a good negotiating session with Kim Jong-un, perhaps coming up within a month. Also keep in mind that South Korea is the major player here. South Korea and North Korea are the two leaders in putting together this dialogue. And who knows what might happen from some comment from Giuliani or from the president that could derail this entire and very, very important avenue that we're traveling down, hopefully towards a much more peaceful Korea.
Absolutely. But, you know, the president on Friday pushed back a bit on that New York Times report, saying that he's considering reducing troops in South Korea. First off, do you believe the president when he says that particular option is not on the table? And then how risky of a move would it be, say the Pentagon were going to follow through, especially during these negotiations?
Well, one thing you can count on the Pentagon doing, and that is war games. They're planning every conceivable scenario into the future, not only in the Korea Peninsula, but really around the world, so that they're prepared. I don't think there's any possibility in the near term for the reduction of American forces on the Korea Peninsula or in that entire region. We're going to maintain those forces there. The real question is there a peace deal between North Korea and South Korea in the months, year ahead perhaps? If there is, and if it's real, and if there's some mechanism over a period of time in a reduction of the military on both sides, then in that scenario, quite possibly there would be a reduction in the American presence. But that is a long, long way off.
Okay, let's take a look at the deadline on the Iran deal. That is this coming Saturday, six short days from now on the 12th. Based on everything you've heard from the president recent days, do you have a sense of what he is going to do, which way he's going to go on this, whether to re-up or pull out of it?
Well, we used to say, is it Tuesday, and he'll do one thing, and then Thursday he'll do another on the very same issue. This is extremely important. We have to stay in the deal. If the United States pulls out of that deal, then we are out there all by ourselves. The other 5 participants, the other 5 countries, presumably are going to stay in the deal. We're then at odds with our key allies in Europe and opposite position with regard to China and Russia. That's not a good thing. And besides that, what are we going to do? We pull out of the deal. Well, what are the options on the table for us? Iran presumably could restart its nuclear program. They were very, very close to a nuclear weapon when this deal went into place. They're at least 10 years away from it, quite possibly 15, or maybe permanently away from having a nuclear weapon. All of that is very good. The president can huff and puff, but what he really needs to do here is to take a very, very close look, understand that Iran is actually carrying out its obligations under the deal, that inspections are taking place, very, very tough inspections, full understanding of what Iran is doing. All of that is in place. So the president really needs to back away from all of this and let the deal continue in place, and then simultaneously work with our allies, particularly with the Europeans, on going after the other problems that Iran is causing. Hezbollah, terrorism, as well as its missile development.
All right. Got to get you in on immigration here, because the president is making some new threats when it comes to the border wall, the funding for it. Let's take a listen to what he said at that business roundtable in Cleveland yesterday.
We are fixing and building walls now, but we need much more money. We're doing the job right. We're going to do the job. And we may have to close up our country to get this straight, because we either have a country or we don't. And you can't allow people to pour into our country.
That is not the first time the president has threatened to shut the government down if he doesn't get the kind of money he wants for his wall when it comes to budget renegotiations. That said, look, you're a lawmaker, you represent a border state, and especially now that the talks between the president and Congress over DACA and immigration matters have stalled, how do you read what he's saying there?
I'm reading, once again, confusion. and therefore policy will not move forward. Yes, we are improving the various fences and walls that we have in various parts around the United States on the Mexican border. That's all good. We do need to control the immigration issue. That's important. But at the same time, we have a major problem. He ought to come out to California and visit some of my farmers that have absolutely no idea how they're going to harvest their crops or even prune their trees without farm labor, most of it from Mexico. We need a rational immigration policy. We need a farm labor policy. The high-tech companies all around this nation, and particularly here in California, need immigrants. We need the best minds from around the world to continue our leadership in technology. We have a need to be compassionate. There are refugees from horrible places around the world where they are in serious risk, some in Central America. Certainly we see this in the Middle East. We are a compassionate nation. We need to be able to bring into our country refugees from wherever they may be around the world. All of these things are necessary. And the president just keeps talking about his old campaign promises, thinking that somebody's going to cheer. Well, I can tell you, the Republican farmers in my district are not cheering. They're desperate. They're desperate for a rational, complete immigration policy. And the rest of America is also.
All right. John Garamendi of California, thank you so much, sir. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Do presidents of the United States have to comply with subpoenas? Trump's lawyer doesn't seem to think so. We're going to ask a former prosecutor.